If you're interested in secret gardens, this is the book you need to get hold of. I've come today to a garden in Stanford in the Vale, and it sounds it's got lots of exciting things. We've got a scree bed, sinks and troughs, a damp garden, herbaceous borders, ornamental grasses. Looks like we'll probably be here all day. Anyway, we're going to pay our money and have a look around. There are lots of these gardens all around the country, and they're open usually 1 or 2 days a year, and the money all goes to charity. How much is it?
£1 to come in, please.
Wonderful. And are you the owner?
Yes. My husband, we own it together, my husband.
Excellent. And these are all plants I can hopefully buy later.
Yes.
That's what.
At the moment, still lots of interest.
Have you got time to show me around a bit?
Yes, if you like a
Wonderful.
guided tour.
Lead the way. We'll go and have a look around. How many visitors do you expect to get today?
Not many, because the weather is so awful, I think.
Right.
They're not many. I mean, it rained till about 8:30 this morning, and now recently it's cleared up, so we can never tell.
You can never tell
No.
with openings. What is the sort of usual amount of people you expect to get during the year?
Up to 1,000.
Up to 1,000. So
Yeah,
you have
that's
1,000 people tramping around your garden.
Yeah.
You don't mind
not
that?
all at once.
No,
though.
but I mean throughout the year. It's
Yes.
still. Oh, what
this
have we
is
got?
a scree garden.
That's a scree garden. So what exactly is a scree garden?
Well, it's just a well-drained area to sort of simulate the mountain side, you know, so that the drainage is fairly fierce, and at the same time there's plenty of air circulation. It's not
Right.
overhung by trees, you know. Most of these things are rock plants, and we found over the years that we lost quite a few over the winter. The rain accumulates around the roots, and there's a progressive rot, and they're gone. So this isn't probably technically an exact reproduction of a scree, but what we've done here is to dig out a concave area and turn it into a convex area and fill the space between with a layer of broken bricks and stone and gravel, and about a 50% soil mixture with gravel in the top. So we've now got really good drainage on a mild slope, and we were fortunate that people over the road were dismantling a dovecote.
Oh, right. So these are all
bits
Cotswold
of tiles.
All Cotswold tiles. It's
And
wonderful.
The advantage
Wonderful
it has
stone. You can see where they were sort of.
That's right. There's
the
still a few
fixings.
nails about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The advantage it has over gravel is that, of course, you can walk on it without compacting the soil
Right.
underneath.
So now, what are the sort of plants that need a scree garden to grow?
Yes,
I mean,
yes. Well, look, what you see in here, sedums, a great number of sedums.
Yeah.
They're easy to grow, of course,
that's
and quite
easy to
hardy.
grow,
And
yeah.
of course, all these plants are hardy, but what it won't accept is winter wet.
Right.
And this is where you get over it with the scree.
How long has this scree bed been planted?
Well, I think this is perhaps its third year.
Right. So
well established.
eventually, will it almost cover?
Oh, no, I
over?
hope not. No, I prefer to leave it open.
You need to
partly
see
for
the
the convenience
stones.
of walking in between, but more particularly because I think you need to see the stone.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you don't know you've got a scree.
Absolutely
What we have
right.
done, I mean, there are mistakes. We've got too big a plant here and there. We've got a curry plant here.
Right. And this grows into a monster.
A large artemisia
Yeah.
there, which has to be hacked back regularly.
Yes. It's a lovely
And many of the
plant.
things are a bit too big.
Right.
But by and large, it's been a great success, much admired, and
I think it's wonderful.
I've intended to increase the area, the other side of the path, so that we'll have an equal size over there eventually.
And it's wonderful for people that want to grow a lot of these plants
Yes,
and can
yeah,
try and sort of simulate these conditions in
Yes,
far from ideal
It's
circumstances.
so easy to go out and buy these plants and then find after the first winter you've lost most of them.
Yes.
Well, this is the answer. Improve the winter drainage.
Brilliant.
Not difficult.
Wonderful.
It does have one or two downsides. We find a lot of tree seeds are caught in it.
Yes.
And
the
that
roots
does happen.
must be a nightmare to get out without sort of...
Well, you have to get them young, you know.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's, as you can see, you walk on it, you're not compacting the
No,
ground.
well, I
If it-
hope I'm not.
if it were gravel, you'd be making indentations and spoiling the drainage.
That's
So
wonderful.
it
Oh
works very
well.
well.
Must get on and see the rest of the garden, but
right.
but that's wonderful. Thank you.
And this is through the field gate, as we call it.
Right. So this was a field before, or?
Yes, when we first moved in here, the sheep were in here. They belonged to the vet next door.
Right.
And we had it ploughed up and turned it into a vegetable
I
garden.
love this Nicotiana.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing.
Nicotiana sylvestris.
And does it self-seed or?
Yes, I think it was in a pile of stuff we shredded
Right.
in the autumn, and the seeds must have just fallen.
Wonderful
there and
sort of
grown.
sticky leaves that all
Yeah.
sorts of things sort of
Yes,
stick to.
I'm afraid bugs stick
Yes,
on there
bugs
as well.
stick to them, don't they? But it's a wonderful plant. And so everything here is all pretty well planted by you? I mean, trees
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Everything?
Yes,
That's
everything.
wonderful. So what's sort of the first bit we come to?
This is a damp garden.
So what makes it a damp garden as opposed to all the rest? I mean, it looks sort of fairly level and there are no streams. How did it actually become damp in this little patch?
Well, the whole garden is very dry.
Right.
And so we needed to grow things like hostas and stuff that like the damp.
Yeah.
And so we had to make it retain moisture. And of course you can do it two ways. Spoil the drainage is what we did. We dug out a shallow depression and bashed the clay at the bottom
So
to
you
stop.
put on
Yes,
clay
yeah.
anyway, right.
Yes, and if you plant plants with large leaves, they think
Right.
they're in a damp situation.
And look at the way they've sort of grown and thrived. I mean, obviously not their best at this time of
No.
year, but the wonderful sort of
Wallflowers
lush,
finish.
lush forms.
This
And
is Salvia patens. Do you know
that's
that
beautiful.
blue one?
It's wonderful, isn't it? And there's a pale one which I don't actually like as much. It's
No.
not quite as vivid. I think this is the colour salvia should be.
Yes.
I mean, it's a colour that hardly any other flower gets. That
I know.
wonderful blue.
Not reliably hardy. You have to take cuttings or something.
Right.
Not
it's
here,
sort of
it's not.
slightly tuberous, isn't it? It
Yes.
almost has a like a dahlia, a sort
Yeah.
of small tuber underneath.
I often collect seeds from it or take cuttings, hedge my
Right,
bets.
just in
and
case.
maybe leave the main plant in the garden.
Right.
But
And the monadas, which like
yes,
somewhere
lovely
damp.
scent on
And
the
a
leaves
wonderful
as well.
scent.
Cambridge Scarlet, that red
That's
one.
wonderful, and it's a good colour again. I think it's the
Yes,
nicest of all the
yes.
monadas. I think some of the purpley ones get a little bit sort of murky.
And this is a nice plant behind us here. Do you see that?
Oh, right, yes, a little.
Just starting to come out now.
So that's really something that likes
Yes.
like September flowering. Now, which one is that? Is
That's Coccinius
that's
major.
Coccinius, and that's Schizostylus Coccinius
Yes.
major. Let's have just have a look. Absolutely wonderful, and there are plenty of buds still to come. Sort of deep red colour. Really lovely thing. I see you've had a spot of slug trouble.
Oh, yes. We don't use
Look
slug
at them.
pellets too much because
They're
we've
really
lots
shredded,
of yes, frogs and toads here and thrushes.
Right,
And I
so
feel
they-
that if you use pellets, does damage to them.
Right.
And we try and be a bit nature conscious.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you grit and things around to try and stop the slugs?
Yes.
or-
Often in the spring, I
Yes.
water with some of the liquid slug things that doesn't.
Of course, at this time of year, I mean, a hosta, the leaves are going in the next sort of month or so,
Yeah.
so it's not the end of the world to
No.
have them a little bit sort of tatty.
These are unusual gentians.
Oh, right.
No, Tibetica.
I
Brown
don't
flowered
know.
one.
I don't. It looks like one of those plants that you have to be a plant enthusiast to really get excited
Yes.
about. It's the sort of thing that to know it is to love it. But
Yeah.
perhaps many of your visitors walk straight past that
Well,
one. I
yes,
wouldn't.
just point it out.
That's a lovely combination, isn't it, with the
Yeah.
ajuga growing in amongst.
Quite
the
by
veg.
accidents, and lots
Yes,
of
but
plantings happen just
Some
like
of the
that.
best things
Yeah.
are by accident. I mean, that's wonderful. It's just like a mossy cushion. You feel you can sort of
This
sit
we
down.
call the knoll garden because
Right.
it's dappled shade in the spring,
Right.
and many plants survive here.
And
Small
many
daphnes
plants
and
actually
things.
sort of prefer the dappling of tree cover. Look at that.
Yes.
Wonderful autumn colours. And these huge leaves. And that's a Rodgersia. Which one is it?
Hescifolius, I think.
Right.
The chestnut
The
leaf
chestnut
one,
leaf
yes.
one, and it is just like a giant chestnut leaf. Of a wonderful autumn colour. They're just nearly over now, but you can see that wonderful, the way they've turned through sort of yellows and
Yes,
oranges.
just waiting for the first frost, and
First
then,
frost, and then
they'll be
off
gone.
they go.
And these are shrubby willows at the back.
Yes, again, they're not at their best at the moment,
No.
but they're lovely things in the spring. What else have we got along here? Oh, look, this is one of my very favourites. Tricertis.
Yes,
It's
yes.
absolutely wonderful. A toad lily, the most
Yes.
exotic little flower. You have to almost they're one of those flowers you actually have to sort of get really close up to and see the intimate detail, but they're
Yes.
and quite easy to grow. Do you have any problems?
Yes, they like the damp and the semi-shade, you see, yes.
And
I think they wouldn't do well in a herbaceous border.
Oh, I have them in my
Do you?
border.
Oh.
Slugs are a huge
Oh, I
problem with
see.
mine. I have real slug problems.
Small cyclamen, rather nice.
Oh
on the
yes,
edge.
lovely. That's one of the joys
And
of this
that
time.
was diorama
Oh
pulchrimus,
yes,
the pink
yes. Again,
flower.
not a wonderful thing. in season. That's again a favourite of mine.
Yes. Rather wet and soppy at the
Yes,
moment, isn't it?
Joe Pieweed. It always tumbles over at this time of year. What is it? Eupatorium, is it?
Yes, Eupatorium. That's the purple variety.
And absolutely, it gets covered in bees and butterflies. That sometimes the weight of bees and butterflies on an individual flower will actually bow the flower down.
And the thing you're just moving now is the tall monkshood.
Oh, right.
Aconitum carmiculae, is it?
Lovely.
Autumn flower
And
one.
it's just coming out in flower now. It just shows you. I mean, we're right at the end of the summer, and there's still lots happening in the garden. Wonderful. So what's the next sort of bit we're coming on to?
I was going to say, we moved to a different area again now. This is semi-wild all around here.
Now what's this? This is looking a bit ropey.
Oh,
it looks like a mulberry.
one of our disasters. Yeah.
So what's going to happen to this?
I think it's probably going to chop down.
Ooh, firewood?
Well, after a few months it might be firewood.
After a few months it might be firewood. So you haven't thought of silkworms and...
No, it's a mulberry tree, but this one never has the beautiful fruit.
Right, so it's the white mulberry, not the black mulberry.
Yes.
But it can be a really nice tree though. This isn't a prime specimen.
Maybe because it got too dry in the summers, I don't know.
Right, yes.
Bronze fennel.
Bronze fennel's a lovely thing. Now, one thing I can't help but noticing over here is this wonderful hedge. So this is wonderful. You've got a full variation of all sorts of English native plants like this lovely Guelder rose here. Why have you decided to make a mixed hedge like this?
Well, basically we needed a windbreak because the westerlies come off the downs here, nothing to stop it. If you have a fence, the wind tends to come over the top and eddy round the bottom and does more harm than good.
Right.
So it's much better to filter the wind and slow the wind down. Mm-hmm. And we like to encourage birds, and so that's good nesting sites here.
Wonderful.
And food for them.
Wonderful. And so how long has this hedge been in? I mean, it looks thoroughly mature now.
15 years, I would
15
think.
years, and
We cut it every year.
really beautiful thickness. I don't know if you can sort of get in here, but you can see, I mean, there's so much habitat for things to sort of lurk and nestle and nest and feed that it really does make a big difference to a conifer hedge.
Yes.
Now, where are you going to take us next? I don't know the way.
Just a little track. This we call the woodland area.
Right. The sorbus, that's nice. Which one is that? I always get... That's lovely, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that a fairly new addition?
Yes, it's fairly new, and having the pearl berries, the birds don't eat them quite as quickly as the red ones.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So it actually lasts a bit longer with its berries. And this area looks as if you've done some quite sort of serious thoughts to ground cover.
Yes, this is one of the things. On the edge you need ground cover.
Right.
And in the spring, of course, when all the leaves are off the trees, it's all sort of primroses and cowslips, species daffodils. And
that's something that must look wonderful in the spring, or even in the winter.
Yes, lovely red stems on it.
I mean, it's just as if somebody's polished them.
Doesn't look much like a willow, really, does it?
But it is. It's a willow. Which one? It's Salix
the label's on
the label. Mupiniensis or yes, I think that's.
And then that
like
plant just by you is interesting.
Oh, lovely, Kiringishoma.
Yes.
And that's a Japanese plant. And the weird thing about it is the flower never really comes out, does it?
No.
I mean, that's basically it. But now I've seen this grow much taller. Is this one that's sort of fairly recently planted, or is it?
It's been there 2 years, I think.
Right. Yeah. So maybe it's just the alkaline soil.
And I think it likes more dampness, really.
Yes. Yes. I know I've certainly got it growing in a shady border in it.
You know, a very nice range of colours with all the different shrubs.
Yes.
I mean, you don't need flowers all the time. You can do it with leaves and foliage.
Wonderful.
Having problems with a mole here.
So, have you caught him yet?
No, unfortunately, no.
So it looks like we're going through into another room here. So what do you call this area?
Well, just dappled shade again.
Right.
Windbreaks built this side.
Right, and these are all, again, it's wonderful to see planting of sort of endemic trees in gardens rather than just exotica.
Why we planted these two silver birches close together, one of my daughters wanted to put a hammock somewhere, and now of course she's since left home and never used them.
It's a hammock post, and those cyclamen underneath, they're so wonderful. I mean, it's one of the greatest things about autumn.
Yes.
And the wonderful leaves they have
Yes.
throughout the summer.
And once you've got them, they seed madly.
You can actually see these. They have these sort of
They
little
spiral
coils,
down,
these
that's right.
like a little spring with a seed capsule on the end. They're lovely things.
And also in the wood, many different types of fern, you know.
Right. And I imagine there's lots more happening in the spring with spring bulbs and underplanting.
Yes. The garden changes all the time. Yeah.
Yes, can we have a wander over here to have a look and see what's going on in the woods today? I see you've used a lot of mulch everywhere. Is that something you always try and do to keep in moisture where possible?
Lots of our own compost.
Right.
And keep the moisture in. You can only do this once it's rained.
But
we're waiting for rain.
These are sort of fairly fresh. Are these wood chippings? Are these?
Yes.
And are these homemade wood chippings, or are these?
No, actually we bought them.
Right.
But we have got one of those shredders, so we coarsely shred our, herbaceous stuff.
Right. And does that really help keep water in
moisture.
and weeds out? That's excellent, isn't it? And do you find you need to feed more when you've actually got fairly fresh wood chippings down, because they do take the nitrogen from the soil, don't they?
Well, with the compost underneath, you see, I think
so that's done it.
back,
That's
yes.
brilliant. This is a wonderful thing over here. It's an inula, isn't it? Which inula is it?
Inula magnifica.
Right,
It has huge yellow
and
flowers.
it's a sort of relative of the sunflower, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, a lovely thing, and one of those things that really brings a touch of exotic into an English garden.
Yes.
I have huge problems with mine blowing down, but obviously with your shelter here.
I think that's a help, yes.
And do you stake much around your garden?
Yes, and then when stakes are finished around one plant, we have to move them to
Right.
another, because these link stakes are lovely, but
Yes, they're not always the most beautiful thing to look at. I
No.
mean, you want the plant to be sort of tumbling over, don't you? Sort of lose the stake and see the plant.
Oh, this is another interesting thing.
Oh, that's one of my favourites. The pheasantberry, Lacesteria. Is it Lacesteria?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Nutmeg tree is a
A nutmeg tree. I never know why it's called nutmeg
no,
tree,
why?
but it has an actual very, very fleshy berry that's absolutely adored by pheasants. Do you ever get them in here?
We do often, yes. I often walk down here and nearly stand on one, rockets up in front of me. And you die of fright.
Quite alarming, isn't it? But it's one of those things that will grow very quickly, will sell seed, and it's one of those things, if somebody's fairly new to a garden, it's something that can provide quite an instant windbreak or tallish plant that people don't often seem to bother about.
No. I think the first one was brought in by a bird,
Right.
we didn't plant it.
And they've self-seeded from there on. Where are we off to now? I love these impatins. They're, again, self-seeded everywhere?
Yes.
They
Because
look
the
wonderful.
grandchildren love touching the seed pods and
They
the shoots of
explode.
seeds everywhere.
Do you think it's probably a bit? Oh look!
Oh, you
can
hold it
see
in
there.
your hand, yes.
You come and have a look and see if we can make one explode there. The seed pods. They're not playing the game today. Oh, that one might do it. That's looking just about ready. There we are. You see, as you touch them, the seed pods explode. Hilarious fun for children and adults alike. So we've seen the sort of woody bit.
And this is another area.
Right. And over there you've got your greenhouses and your sort of growing zone. A lot of aeroplane activity. Sounds like you're having an air show or something
well, they
overhead
practice
today.
overhead, I think, from Kidlington.
Look at
or
those apples.
Abingdon.
These are huge. What variety are these?
I forget.
Something
yes, we had them all
shiny,
labelled
big and red.
once, and
But
I
the
forget.
interesting thing is they're all grown on a cordon system. How long ago did you plant these?
Oh, well over 20 years.
Right.
Very, very small.
I mean, when you imagine the normal size of a fruiting apple, if it had got to tree size and hadn't been pruned as a cordon, you can see why people grow them. And the dog's enjoying them.
Yes, she picks them off.
She picks them
the
and eats them.
bottoms,
Is this a good variety?
Yes.
Can I have one?
Yes. Straight off the tree they are. Beautiful, aren't they?
That is delicious. Over here we've got an enormous amount of colour. Show me around this bit. This looks like dill.
Yes, it is. Special dill.
But it's very special dill. It's very silvery. Why have you managed to get such a silvery variety of dill?
Well, I've got a Finnish friend and she bought the seed from Finland originally.
Right.
And it self-seeds in the garden now. And I don't know the variety of it, because it's so superior to the green
It
one.
is. It's wonderful. Have you got any seedlings that I can filch before I go?
It's the wrong time of year.
It's the wrong time of year. You haven't got seeds.
Yeah.
Keeping that one. And do you I notice you've got a lot of sort of aromatic plants. Do you cook a lot with them?
Yes, I love cooking. Yeah.
Right. What
As you can see.
are your favourites of all of the herbs around the garden?
Well, I think dill.
Dill's one of your favourites. It's an excellent thing.
Sort
You've obviously got some sort of Viking blood in you.
Oh no, I haven't.
No Viking blood. And a wonderful little silver thyme. Again, all sorts of scented things that give an extra dimension to a garden.
Yes.
Wonderful. That's another
thing,
wonderful
yes.
thing. Just
Old
I never
man,
know.
I think they call that,
Old
don't they?
man, or sometimes
Southernwood?
southernwood, or lad's love. What do you think it smells of? I can never quite decide.
I'm not very keen on the smell of that, actually.
I think it's sort of rotting apples and car tyres. Subtly blended.
Yes, that's why I don't like it.
It's nice.
And that's something else that goes on for ages. Do you know that?
Oh, it's an apita, isn't it?
Cavallana.
Yeah.
Cavallana.
Lovely. I mean, quite a frail little thing, but goes on and on and on.
And look, you can see it's all nearly finished
Yes,
here.
but you can see it. You can see there's still a lot of colour and a lot of form. And
nice.
wonderful red sage. Again, so much more exciting than the green variety.
Yes.
And doesn't tend to flower that much.
No, I do cut the flower heads
Cut the
off
flower heads
generally.
off.
You know, they
But
finish
wonderful contrast of the new foliage and the older stuff.
nice
as
for
it
flower
dies back.
arranging, you see, which
Yeah.
is another thing that I
Right.
like doing.
And so here, now this is something that you don't see that often, sort of a chamomile seat area. This is wonderful. You have to get down and actually get on your hands and knees and worship chamomile and have a good sniff. Wonderful appley smell.
Yes, lovely.
Do you have trouble with sort of bare patches?
Well, it's whether something's dug that out. I don't know why that's suddenly
Yes,
gone dead there.
Because this variety is Trenegie, isn't
Yes,
it?
non-flowering
And
sort supposed
this spreads. It doesn't spread by seed because it doesn't seed. It actually spreads by little runners. And basically, you need to get hold of some chamomile Trenegie plants. You need some quite sort of stone-free, rich soil because if it hits a stone, you get a bare patch. And
yes.
it needs good soil to be able to spread out.
I think we started with about 5 plants
Right.
here, you know.
Right, and so with all of these lovely scented plants, obviously it's lovely to be able to sit down on the bench and have a rest.
If one ever has time
If
to
you
sit.
ever have time. But I mean, with all of these wonderful plants we've seen today, you've obviously got great skills as a plantswoman. What do you think is your secret as to what actually makes a good gardener?
Well, I should think patience and dedication, really. It's something you're born with or you grow into, I don't know.
There's certainly a huge amount of dedication gone into this garden. Better actually get back to the tills and see
Yes, if anybody
see
else
how
is
the
coming
queue's
round.
getting on.
Yes. I doubt if there'll be many today, although the sun is coming out.
The sun's
now,
coming
it's
out.
lovely, isn't it?
I reckon this afternoon you may get a fair few in. But I'm certainly going to try and see if I can buy some of the choice things I've seen from the plant stall.